From antiquity, I have found a template that is based on the human life that we can take a journey inward through our memories for self-healing. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I was asked by someone to just cut to the chase and go straight there. There's a point where the template is a big thing. Not many people are called. You do all this, get that, turn inward, cross the threshold, blah, blah, blah. At some point, the person says, yeah, okay, I got that. There's something inside that doesn't feel good. Just get to that. How do I defeat the monster? So, my name is Dan Paulson. Let's go ahead and do that in this video. First of all, what is the monster? The monster has many metaphorical names. It could also be the weed that grows from the garden. Same thing. Metaphorically, what we're talking about is ourselves and something that emerges that is not good. A thistle from the garden. Yeah, here's something coming from me, the garden of my life experience, my mind. It's emerging. It's not good, is it? I'm angry or depressed or think poorly of myself, or all manner of derogatory things that we can live through, and many of us do. Then it could also be, the demons or skeletons in the closet or things like that that are things that act out. These are always metaphoric representations of the way life works. Life is based, the entire universe is based in cause and effect. We exist within cause and effect. And when we're holding on to something that is a certain energy nature, it continues to act out in life, whether it's good or bad, whether it's beneficial or derogatory. And what I mean is whether it makes us feel good or makes us feel bad. So basically, in a nutshell, what I'm going to say is that we are living life as we go through having new experiences, but we're living through our past memories and the emotional state of them as we're living through life and perceiving life. We're perceiving it through the mind's eye. No, that's fine. Everybody does that. The question is, what is in the mind's eye? If you've got a pure, open mind, everything is okay. You've got you've had a good life, and you're full of love and things like that. That's where everybody wants to get. But not many people are there. We've had a lot of hurtful experiences, abuse, being told bad things. We've had things happen that we make decisions about, and we're stuck in believing that now. We become products of that belief. And all of the hurt stuff that we accumulate that we don't want to deal with, that we're told that, it's shameful, and for some reason we feel like I can't tell people this stuff. I'm too afraid. And of course, a lot of the stuff, you don't even put it in public. You have to kind of go to private with this kind of stuff. I will say things like, in my own life experience, I interacted with this material is how I know it. But I left home early due to abuse, ran away. I was a kid on the streets, and I got molested. And that was so shameful. It tore me up in life until I finally figured out that I had to admit to that, and it released from me that there was something very considerable right there that changed an experience that made me realize, okay, this is what has to happen here. It was not okay. It was not fun. It never felt good. It never did feel good. But once I got it off me, the moment I got it off me, it felt like 2 weeks before my feet touched the ground again. It was so uplifting that it was like, bingo, this is it right here, no doubt. No matter how much it hurts to take care of it, to get it, to surface it, doesn't matter. The benefits are going to make you go, oh my God, why did I wait so long? Why was I so afraid? Well, how do we do that? Okay, so here's what I want to talk about. First of all, there are different facets of our mind. We want to become combined as one, but what that really means is that you want your conscious and your subconscious working in concert. That's what that means. You still have different aspects of your mind. There's a higher awareness, there's a consciousness, there's a subconscious. There is the flow of life as a result of the quality of the nature of the emotional state of our general mind state. Our general mind state, emotion, is going to dictate our general life flow. So, when the life flow isn't good and you're going, things are not okay, you have to resolve this up here. And that becomes difficult. It hurts. How do we do it? We have this built-in really big fear. And I'll stay away from all of the why and all of that, only how to heal. What we need to do is, first of all, recognize the higher awareness. That's where we need to operate from. We all operate from there. If you're on this path, you will already know this place. You may not know what it is, but when I describe it, you'll go, oh yeah, that's there. I got that. That's what we need to understand. I describe it often as that when you wake up at 3 a.m. or something like that, and you're tossing and turning and something is just, you can't get back to sleep. It's just so haunting in your mind that you'll notice this mental dialogue going on. your consciousness, you're freaked out about it, you're thinking about it, you're in turmoil, you don't know what to do. But every once in a while, this part of you steps in, and it's outside of everything going on, and it tells you, hey, there's nothing you can do now. Why are you so frazzled? Go to sleep. Shh, just let it go tonight. Deal with it tomorrow. There's nothing you can do. That right there is the higher awareness. What happens though? We don't typically do that. The conscious, not knowing that, slips right back into the experience that is coming from the subconscious. And the subconscious experience is like, here I am. You want to resolve me? I'm coming out. You're going to experience me. Experience my nature until you resolve me. Okay, as we do this, we have to start inferring what's going on. You have to go, yep, that higher awareness is there. I do know that there's a place in my mind that I can look at this where I don't feel the emotional state. If you can get there, that's the higher awareness. That existed before your life experience. That is us, except that when we were young, we didn't have the connections to know it. Now we have the connections to figure it out, and we're trying to get through this massive life experience and get it out of the way so we can live freely. Ultimately, that is clearing the mote from the eye. What has happened, though, unbeknownst to us, is the conscious. Well, the first thing you do is you become conscious, and you have to start voraciously having life experiences. And wherever you come from is where the life experiences in your mind come from and how they experience. But what happens is the consciousness right here is having the life experiences, then determining the quality of that by giving it an emotion, and then developing some sort of a memory that can be, however it's scattered, it becomes a part of you that is a part of your brain. It's a part of your makeup, a part of your general makeup. And the more you experience it, the more you feel about it. At first, think back on it. It was kind of confusing at first. It wasn't, now I feel so much hatred. You can see an evolution of the way you feel about it, but it's all been happening in the mind, in our own perceptions. We are creating it unbeknownst to us by our fear, by our anger, by our experience, by our shame. We are creating it and we don't know it. We're wiring ourselves by our life experiences. And then we become products of that, along with our various brain types. But by and large, what we want to do is get after the life experience. It becomes malleable once we know that it was a conscious decision to take this life experience that I cannot get rid of and classify it in one way. That classification right there, it is an emotion. That emotion is what creates its life and causes it to continue to live through the unified field. So what has to happen then, now the consciousness becomes aware of that and goes, oh, geez, I didn't know that. Now I have to go back and resolve that stuff. But with it comes fear and shame and things that I experience viscerally. I don't want to tell you I got molested. That's shameful. I've had people, when I admitted it, lash out at me. Well, you must like it. You got to tell people about it. And you're like, what? I'm trying to heal here. You know what? They just told you about them. It's not uncommon. Back to point, though, about us, that this is how we become what we are. By having life experiences and then judging the quality of those life experiences. And some people get on a course, we're not all on the same course. If the shoe fits. If you have to take the path and you want to take the path, it's a personal path, period. There's no other way. This is you realize when you look at this, no one can tell you what to do and or tell you what to believe, and that suddenly it's fixed. You realize that it's a perception in your mind and the way that you're holding that perception, regardless of the face you put onto people. You know in your own mind what it really is by the emotional experience of it. This becomes so personal that it's like, yeah, you can have all the knowledge, but if you don't take the path, it's you don't get anything out of it. And if you're following people, you're not taking the path. You only can guide yourself through your memories. That's the only way to do it. So anybody following other people, bye. Stop and turn inward. It's a personal path. But what it entails, you can see then, is that going through those memories, and what are they? How good do they feel? The problem that we're having is this emotion right here, the fear of getting it over the top. There's a threshold that that we put up that for some people becomes insurmountable. They have so much fear and so much shame. Shame is the big one. Shame is the one that's going to make people lash out. Shame is the biggest one. Shame will look like anger and other things, but there's a motivating something inside of there that's unresolved. And for most of us, if we look at that, we would say, yeah, that's probably the hardest thing to deal with. Sometimes there are many other things. Maybe we don't have shame, but we just don't feel good about ourselves. There's personal feelings of a lack of self-worth. Whatever it is, you have to look at your own mind and say, I'm looking for happiness, and I got some stuff along the way that make me feel bad and continue to make me feel bad because I believe that. Don Miguel, the 4 agreements. This is the agreements we make. We live life and go, I become a product of my life experiences. Those are the agreements right there. Buddha, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is based on our thoughts. The Buddha. Jesus has another one in a different style of cryptic verbiage. Judge not, for which the judgment you judged, life will be meted likewise unto you, or words to that effect. What this means is that as you judge life, as you grab onto experiences and classify them, they're going to continue to repeat. And that's exactly right. Look back on your life and try to find something different if you think it through. So then the issue is, how do we overcome that fear? The fear is going to experience. What you have to do is find a way to allow yourself to experience the fear through the healing process without going, oh, that feels so bad, I quit. Because that always happens. I need to deal with this. Nope, it's too painful. There's a point where you have to go, this can't continue to happen. You're allowing the conscious that at some point in time, the higher self is in control and you know what to do. So the conscious goes, yep, I'm going to go heal. But the closer you get to it without knowing that you've left the higher self behind, you're not bringing it with you. You're not keep maintaining it in place. What you're doing then is slipping back into the conscious self, and what is the strongest thing right there becomes the emotion, and you go, oh, I don't have a reason to overcome that. So you have to maintain a mental process somehow that is a part of the higher self. Here's what this looks like. I did this one time. I had a problem that I didn't get a hold of. It's a weird thing. My wife told me, you have this kind of an attitude problem this time every year. And it was right around Christmas and my birthday. And which is the 20th of December. It was very bizarre. And honestly, what it ended up being was a memory that was, it's a weird thing, but there was a memory that I had from childhood that was not resolved. And here's how I found it and how I resolved it. It's a strange thing. Chasing ghosts. Sometimes you think you've left everything behind, but weird stuff still happens. What is it? Sometimes there's things in there that you haven't got resolved, parts of you that were not acknowledged, memory bits that are still in place acting out, but hard to see. And that's exactly what this was. It was about a month after my brother committed suicide. I was 9 years old. He was 11. We went to church, but he hung himself because he thought he would go to heaven. He wanted to leave the abuse. And then I was not doing well, but you're forced to still try to function, and nobody talks to you. Nobody knows what's going on. It was a tragedy. I'm in Sunday school, and I get sent by my teacher downstairs to Mr. Woodard's class, which was Larry's class where he was, to bring him a message. And as soon as I opened the door, his entire class and teacher started singing happy birthday to me because it was my birthday. And I sat there. I was in such bad shape. I just started bawling. I'm sitting there. They got a cake going. They never do this to people before. They don't give birthday parties to people. So I see over there a cootie bug and a Mr. Potato Head, things like that. And when they got done, I was crying, and I just asked Mr. Woodard, "Did you just do this because Larry died?" I can't even. It was a difficult thing, and it's just something that we don't process correctly. I remember just thinking, do they think they can make me feel better by giving me some toys? I'm devastated. I lost my brother. We just buried him. He was my buddy. We live remote. He's gone. He left me. Tragically. I found him. I cut him down with no skills whatsoever. I tried to give him mouth-to-mouth, simply forced air into his stomach, causing him to regurgitate. There was never any resolve, no counseling, nothing. I can remember to continue discussing how this healing had to come about. I remember at that time putting away the idea. They're pitying me. Larry died, and they're trying to give me a cootie bug and, some games and stuff like that to feel better. Yeah, cake and a couple of games. I just lost my brother, for crying out loud. What the hell? What are you doing? How come you're treating me this way? That's how I remembered it, because nobody ever talked to me. Mr. Woodard himself cried and sent all the students out and just let me sit there and bawl. So I am developing some issues along the way that are unresolved. There's certainly things that I can look at that I remember, beatings, whippings, things like that. Things like this are less, they're more obscure. They're not so obvious. It's a memory, letting it come. I've got another story that's a better one I'm getting to, but in this case, what I realize is I'm going through this memory and I'm recalling it is that I have to experience it, that it's an issue, that there is something there. And the reason that I know that is because as I begin talking to my wife and recalling this story, that I get emotional. I get choked up. I'm bawling. So as I'm recalling this memory, its emotional state is emerging at the same time. That was tucked away. I didn't know it was there. As I'm talking about it and bawling, it's letting me know what it is. And instead of going, oop, I can't bawl. I'm not going to talk to my wife. I'm going to shut up. She knows me well enough. And I engage the higher self and go, yep, feel it, bawl it out, tell her. So you just keep going and going. The thing you need to do is to get it out and to emerge it. It needs to be surfaced. And ultimately, it's a yardstick, perhaps. Somehow there's a mechanism. It happened between you and somebody. You have to try to resolve it with you and somebody. I think it's hard to resolve things with yourself. Even if you can't resolve it with the individual, sometimes the people you have issues with are dead and gone. We're still paying a price. So you might have to talk it out with somebody else, but the idea is always this, that you have had something that has happened for one reason, whatever reason, we're going through life. You've had an event that happened that you've classified with an emotional state that is still acting out, and that is the actual demon right there. That is the problem. That is the weed in the garden. That is what needs to be surfaced. All right, I'm going to bounce around a bit, but I'm going to defer to a teaching from Jesus at this point, and that is to put myself in somebody else's shoes, and not only put myself in their shoes and walk a mile with them, but walk a mile further on my own. This is a mental process, and I understand what this means, and we're going to engage it right now. What I'm going to suggest is that we're going to be going through mental processes, experiences for healing. And we're going to be doing things that are meant to change the perception of something. And these are very easy to do. Look at this story I just told you. How does it make you feel? How does that experience make you feel? When we're detached from it, we see a bigger picture. When I'm a little 10-year-old kid that is just totally living depressed, not even knowing how to live life, I don't have a handle on anything. I'm trashed. I am mentally, I take everything personally. I hurt. So that's exactly what happens. Today, I can look back on it and go, what if you were Mr. Woodard? Now, go have that experience again. Become Mr. Woodard and watch yourself cry. If I was to, as my adult self, do a serious job of putting myself in his shoes, what I would understand was that Mr. Woodard loved me and Larry, and that he was devastated and he didn't know what to do. And, it could have been his class that said, let's have a party for little Danny. He's young enough. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. He did his best and he didn't know what to do, and he cared. And of course, that's very easy and obvious today to understand. You look at that as an adult and go, well, yeah, of course. But as a little kid, you don't. And what happens to us is during those times, if we're not acknowledged, we develop memories that when they're not acknowledged, you find them by addressing them. And when you address them, you see the emotional state of them. The emotional state tells you if you have to deal with it. Do you want to move away from it? That's the stuff right there. Yep. If you're not comfortable with it, it's a problem. You're carrying that. It is causing an effect on your life, whether you know it or not. So you have to resolve the emotional state of it in order to change your life. It's just that simple. They're like little rudders in the water. You're going where those are pointing, and only you can change them or rectify them, straighten them all out. That's what we're trying to do. We keep getting run off course by all these little memories and experiences that we have that we don't have resolved. And it causes us to experience life. This is a tough road to get out of it completely, but the healing process is as I'm describing it. And what happens is there's something in there that somehow is linked to a time. I'm cycling out at a certain time frame and acting out a certain way. I didn't observe it. My wife did. So there was a fruit from the garden emerging seasonally that I was not aware of, that as I began to ponder it, I would ask, what is this? And at some point, the mind, you stop thinking about it. And I would start thinking of a memory. That's how it works for me. It's that mechanism when you're trying to think of the name of a song or an actor or something, and you're like, it's I can't think about it. And then later on, when you're by yourself, it comes to you. That's kind of what works here. You're like, I need to know where this comes from. And it has to come in from someplace. But you got to have your mind quiet, kind of into receive mode, and then make sure you're observing the memories that come. That's how it works for me. I begin to see this then, and I go, that's a weird thing. Why is this a memory? And then I start going through and talking to my wife about it. And as soon as I start bawling, I go, yeah, this is it right here. That tells me what's there, the nature of it. How it comes out is how it is there. So that's what this is where the fear comes in, and you have to engage the higher self, because that's what you tend to want to move away from, when actually you should be going, that's what I need to go after. That's the monster. That's what I need to make friends with. As long as I hate it and move away from it, it makes it stronger. I am making it through my conscious attention, unbeknownst to me. Beknownst to me, I can change that and change the way it is and change the way my life experiences as a result. I flow differently in the flow. But the thing here is that healing process, letting it come out, recognizing that it is what it is based on how it makes you feel. If it doesn't feel good, that's the stuff you go after. That's not the stuff you run from. Most people run from it. When it's time to heal, you stop that. You then stop, turn, and go after it. Okay, my first story was it was a different one. It was when I first started. I was in about my mid-30s. And I had just started this healing process where I thought I needed to talk it out. And it was through a means that was kind of a science and kind of a psychology means, where people were describing healing once they emerged things that they didn't want to talk about before. And I thought, boy, I think I fit into that. I got a problem with my being molested. I have so much shame, and I needed to emerge that. And I thought, what, if I tell a friend of mine about it, I wonder what happens, because they're talking about the therapist was talking about the idea that the healing took place once they were able to communicate with each other about what the issue was, that is when the healing took place. And I was like, will it work for me? If I talk to a friend about it, will the healing take place at that time? I was connecting those things in weird ways. And I speculated, boy, this is so bad, I want to heal. So I did. I went out to the desert with a friend of mine one afternoon, and I'm walking up and down the road, him and Han, and getting ready to tell about being molested, running away from home and getting molested and getting, taken off the streets in that manner. And that it was a very tragic thing that I was so ashamed of. But before saying that, I'm 10 minutes maybe walking up and down the road, him and Han, okay, this is not my fault. I don't want you to hate me. I don't want you to feel, it was just so difficult. I was hitting up against that wall of fear right there. I did not want to surface it. It needed to surface. I didn't want to. My friend's just like this, leaning up against the hood of the car, waiting and waiting. I had already told her what the plan was, so she was just waiting for me to get to it. At any rate, when I finally told her what happened, I looked at her and I was cringing, like, oh my God, this is horrific. And she just goes, what, that's it? At that moment, a healing took place that I cannot describe. I didn't have the whole issue resolved, but that's the point where I swear it was like I felt so enlightened. It was like a ton came off of me. It was a physiological reaction. I felt like like the weight had been lifted, and it had. But it's all a psychological weight. The perception was that I was light, like I couldn't even feel the ground underneath me. I could hop and float. Ooh, it felt that good. It was just incredible. And I realized at that time, okay, this is what has to happen. Now, I had to actually find a way to be okay with what happened. It doesn't sound okay at all, does it? You have to step back and look at it and go, here's some kid that's come from a bad place, that's going to the street, that's probably going to die. The buzzards will be picking his remains. He gets taken off the streets by people who say you're too young and they molest him. But in the process of doing so, they save his life. You might not be the kind of person that says, I can put myself in their shoes and understand why they molested me. I can't do that. I'm not that person. But I can look at myself in a different way completely and go, buddy, you would have been dead. Are you okay? Wah, wah. What happened to you happens to so many people. How long do you want to live with the pain of that? As long as you hang on to it with the pain and the shame that you do, you're going to make it the way it is, and it's going to get bigger. And only until you find a way to release it. And somehow talking with people is that true measuring stick. You can think about it in your own mind without telling people. And what you have to do to ease is to understand all of these things that are happening, that there is a fear there, that it is probably unnatural. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. What if somebody came up to you and said, hey, take your problem, whatever it is that you don't want to talk about. And imagine that someone came up to you and told you that and said, here's what happened to me. How would you feel about them? Not how you feel about yourself talking to others, but how would you feel about them? And understand this, that when you're talking to people, your feelings are what are getting in your way. They're probably not at all feeling. You pick the right friend, they're not feeling the way you are. You're shutting yourself down by accepting that idea. You got to get past that and go, they're going to be okay with this. They're probably going to have something similar and go, God, I can't believe you have the courage to bring that out. If you're with the right people. You have to be with people that understand this and know that what you're doing is just trying to heal and let the things go. And you're not talking about it because you want to blubber or complain or anything like that, that you're just trying to go, God, I got these things my perceptions that I have to find and resolve in order to be free of them. And as long as I've got them and I'm not dealing with them, I'm living through them anyway. I just don't want to look at it. It creates turmoil. But as long as I don't look at it and I keep looking ahead, what are we doing? We're just going blindly through life. We want to address those things, but the higher awareness needs to be involved. But what this really is in your conscious experience, what you're doing is you are conscious of it. You are conscious of the higher awareness telling you, let it go. Yes, it hurts. Yeah, you're going to cry. Go ahead and cry. Give yourself permission to cry. And the memories are emerging from the subconscious. And the nature of them are going to appear in their emotional state, and you continue to address them until that emotional state is no longer there. That's how the healing happens. That is how we give an offering to God, a burnt offering. You have dissipated it from its physical, and it's up in smoke, whatever. Sounds like a Cheech and Chong movie, doesn't it? All right. You better leave that one alone. Okay. So God is the higher awareness that is allowing it to emerge. The consciousness is going to be experiencing multiple things. We have to know that. We're going to have a mixed feeling. We're going to feel the emotional pain. At the same time, we are having the higher awareness telling us that's okay. But it's in the conscious. So we're sitting there deciding to go through the pain that we normally run away from. That has to happen in the mind. And as it's happening, you have to recognize that it's happening and go, this is fine. It's normal. I don't want to do this. Doesn't matter. Do it anyway, and then it'll be okay. Then it will be not a problem. There was a time I couldn't talk about my molestation. Why can't I now? It doesn't control me anymore. But the only time it did is when I am the one who didn't address it, that didn't resolve it, that didn't look at it from a bigger perspective. But that's natural. We all do that. We live our first life, physical, not until we wake up later and go, oh, I see a bigger picture and I want to separate from that, do we start coming to places like this. And we begin to learn things like we're all together. But at the same time, just knowing all of that stuff in a group of people that are, trying to heal, that are trying to figure things out, is enough often to help somebody overcome their own fears, realizing that they're not alone, that they're with other people that have, there's a lot of us alike out here, but we think so much of ourselves and we want to create such a good impression somehow but we don't admit to anything. Yet at the same time, how much of that really matters? Where does it go into the world? The people that are chosen, really, honestly, I look at certain things in Buddhism or Taoism and says, the sage is the person who, leaves life behind and things like that. And you look at things like that and go, I don't have to become this person right here. I'm already this person. Many times you look at it and you realize at some point, there are people that are going to do this, a certain kind of people. Those are the people you need to find. They're out there. It's hard to find. I don't know if I addressed everything. The idea is that this is going to be uncomfortable. They knew that. They're not dealing with probably the things that we are. I don't know. Shame was the biggest issue then, and it still is today, I think. Shame is a human perception that we take on. I don't think other animals do that. Only humans do, and we tear ourselves up with it. But that there are ways of understanding that we are emergent from a larger sea of creatures that are evolving, that we need to step outside of our individual selves, see the bigger picture, understand that we're this higher awareness, that's what we want to live from. Not this physical world experience, conscious perception where your memories and your past are constantly haunting you. We want to let that go. It's not our fault we have them. It's where we came from. We got to let ourselves off the hook and just talk to people and go, here's the issues. Let's resolve them. But you can see it's very difficult and it becomes very personal. That's the healing process. When you're slaying dragons, when you are, exorcising all of the demons, when we are the man of the tombs and we want to let go of it, we want everything gone. What all of that is are the life experiences and the way that we hold them and the way that we just are we take them so personally that it wipes us out. It's hard to see the big picture when we're so caught up in our own feelings. I certainly know that. And it's a hard path to let it behind. But at the end of the day, the idea for healing is one thing. You have an experience and an emotional perception. And the nature of that emotional perception is what is acting out. And the nature of what the offense is what the triggers are going to be. And in order to stop the triggering, what you have to do is change your perception of what happened to you, understanding that it happens all over the place. And you know what? It happens all over the place. Are you going to experience it for the rest of your life or rise above it, knowing that it's going to happen all over the place? At some point, you have to logically go, you know what? That emotion is in my way. I have to I have to understand what it is and know that I'm going to experience it and change it until I change the way it feels. Then it has become malleable. Then the memory loses its effectiveness. So ultimately, if I was to just as plain language as possible say what the healing process ultimately is when it's interpreted from the material, it is that you have had something bad happen that is hurtful that you don't want to bring out. You're going to bring it out between your memories and the higher awareness into the consciousness. And the conscious is I guess you would have to say it's ultimately the interface between life experiences and the energy world. It is how we emerge from the quantum and then experience the physical life. And the conscious and the brain is the interface between those two right there. And that because of that, because of our life experiences, and we've stored that, we've become that just becomes what we have created without realizing it. We've created our world experiences by judging the world experiences. At any rate, what we're trying to do then is allowing those to emerge and change the judgments that we've made. That's going to exist simultaneously in the consciousness. Typically, we do not do that. It's going to become incredibly unfamiliar to start with. The first thing you want to do is really make sure you have a highly developed connection and understanding of the higher awareness, because the higher awareness is really the one that's going to be telling the conscious at the time that it wants to shut down. The conscious has to turn to the higher awareness and listen to it saying, yeah, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. Don't shut down. Don't turn to the fear. Turn to me. Keep your eyes on me for healing. Don't look at the fear and shut down. So the higher awareness is incredibly crucial for us to engage in the healing process, but we're going to experience it consciously, simultaneously. The okay with the not okay. We have to let it emerge. Make it okay anyway. That has to win instead of the fear. So once we make that transition and understand what's going on, that becomes the healing process. It's changing one's mind by observing what emerges from you. So you have to self-observe, see what's coming out, see what your life experiences are like, go, okay, I see that's not good. Turn inward, change what is causing the issues at that time. And that is how the healing process works ultimately, and how they're describing in the material to do it. It's nested in a deep way, but universally it's correct. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, this is the self-healing process. We're all suffering from the same thing, and that is the perceptions of our memories and how we've been hurt. We're all the same at that level. And there's one process for self-healing, and that's inward, no matter who you are or where you come from in the world. That you can turn outward all day long. There's all manner of things for that. But the ultimate single healing path is where the template comes from. The universal template is this pathway right here, or this is a part of the healing process. The pathway is much bigger. Yeah, we've got all those steps along the way that go into it. But once you go into to defeat the demons, the dragons, the creatures, the ogre, whatever it is that we got with these monsters, we want to change frequencies. There's all kinds of ways of putting it. Changing base metals into gold. There are many ways of describing this transition, but the change of frequency, what it ultimately is exactly what I've described. You're changing the frequency, definitely, but you're changing it. The only way it works really is by changing the way you feel about the memory. You have to be able to release it. The negative feelings that we have towards it are the negative feelings that we're creating, the negative rudder for our life experience. As long as we hold on to that, we're going to keep experiencing it. You don't like it? Oh, well. Welcome to reality. We have to change this. Okay, so ultimately that's it, and I hope that is helpful. That is as plain language as I can get. It is difficult. You can, if you have the capacity to find a psychologist or something like that, people that you can talk out big issues with. Sometimes that's all it takes to get the ball rolling. There are ways of getting it out. Ultimately, somehow, and I don't know why, it seems like if you resolve it in your mind as much as you can only get to a point where it's maybe a little bit more eased. That not until you actually are able to communicate it to other people who say, that's no big deal. Somehow, there's something that happens in that action. You just have to post your own examples below. I know people say they don't need to, and then, you watch them go off and do silly things. So you kind of wonder. We're looking for happiness. And the things that get in the way, that keep cycling from our life experiences, need to be left behind. And the only way to leave them behind is to look at them and to surface them and to not keep denying them and hating them. Is the only way to change. We have to change the frequency of them by changing the way we view them. We gave them their life. We have to change what we gave them. Obviously, it happened from a life experience and we weren't in control of it. So I'm not suggesting that you intentionally did that. But our Life experience and the way we felt about it at the time is what gave it its life. And now we're adult enough to look at that and go, oh, I didn't know any better. So I'm going to have to go back. It doesn't mean it's a good thing, but I got to change the way that I feel about it anyway in order to change my life. Period. Deny it and go live life. Fine. Fix it and it won't happen again. But that's a personal call. Anyway, okay, hope the video was helpful and I hope it explained. I think I answered the question well enough. I hope so. And gave some personal examples of how it worked and how I engaged it at the time, how I allowed the things to surface that are difficult to. And I still am going to keep looking for the template in other places and recommend people go to like Therapy in a Nutshell or places like that, that this is exactly the healing process. It's psychological. All right, see you in the next video.